Congressman Steve King discussed Colin Kaepernick's national anthem protest on Steve Malzberg's show. Let's listen.
So why do you believe that the NFL is capitulating to this when there's no constitutional right of freedom of expression when you're in uniform and working, as a football player for a football team?
Well, Steve, I just think if somebody's working for me and they represent me, that's the same scenario, legal scenario that they have on a football team. And you go out there, if somebody went out there and said, I'm going to, in my spare time, I'm going to promote abortion and same-sex marriage and eroding the Constitution of the United States and promote socialism, they'd be gone in the first minute they opened their mouth on that. I would fire them, and they all know that. I think Colin Kaepernick is representing the San Francisco 49ers when he puts on that uniform, when he steps out on the stage, the world stage. He's taken advantage of that. And he's undermining patriotism. I understand that he has an Islamic girlfriend that is his fiance, and that this has changed him. He's taken on some different political views along the way. This is activism that's sympathetic to ISIS. And for me, if I'm the coach, I would say, you're done.
This is activism that's sympathetic to ISIS. The guy's saying, hey, we have a little too much police brutality and police abuse of authority happening now. I don't know, the evidence, Philando Castile shot while reaching for his wallet after he was told to reach for his wallet. You have Eric Garner, who was choked out in Staten Island for no good reason. You have, I think his name is Walter Scott, is it? Where he was running away and was shot in the back, and then police dropped evidence on top of him. Just like you would expect in the movies with the crooked cops. Or like the Chappelle skit where the cops come around, sprinkle some crack. Like, that stuff actually happens. It exists. There are cops who abuse their authority. I'm not saying all cops are bad, because they're not. But there is a problem, and there also is a disproportionate crackdown, and yes, in many instances, occupation of communities of color. Now, many people say, oh, well, that's because the crime rate there is too high to begin with, so they have to be there. Except, what's the fuel that allows them to be there and to do what they do? The drug war. Now, I contend that those communities wouldn't be nearly as violent in the first place if we didn't have a drug war going on. If drugs were legal, taxed, and regulated, then you wouldn't have gangs being the only game in town for drugs, so you wouldn't have turf wars, you wouldn't have all this crime that's associated with it. And that's just, one way that you can crack down on the disproportionate policing efforts here. But he's raising awareness about this stuff. He's raising awareness to the fact that, black people and white people use drugs at similar rates, and black people are arrested for it 4 times more often. He's saying, hey, there are communities in this country who feel like they're over-policed and that they're unfairly targeted. When you look at the report that came out of, I think it was Baltimore, they said it was routine to violate the Fourth Amendment. You don't have Fourth Amendment protections. They would just see a black person and fucking start searching all their shit. So that happened all the time. A police officer accused of abuse over 125 times, no disciplinary action taken against him. Officers dropping the N-word like nobody's business. There was one police officer who said right after the Trayvon Martin verdict to a black person that he saw, how about you walk around my neighborhood with a hoodie and we'll see what happens. Just overt, blatant threats. These are, face it, thugs in many instances. Thugs. Just because they have a badge doesn't mean they're good by definition. So Colin Kaepernick is raising this, and what do? They fucking lose it. You're sympathetic to ISIS. You want black people's rights to exist and to be recognized, and you want black people to be treated with respect. Therefore, you agree with ISIS. You're doing activism that ISIS would love. He's not, he's not protesting to try to ban music or implement Sharia or behead people for drinking alcohol or cover women up. No, he's not doing any of that. He's protesting because he's saying, hey, can you please, have a little more concern for black rights, and maybe can we do some reforms like ending the drug war or mandating body cameras on the police or doing community policing or doing some sort of sane, reasonable reform that improves the situation. That's it. But they go, no, sympathetic to ISIS. It's really pathetic that these are the kind of responses that they jump to. And so I also love the idea, it's not the First Amendment, it's not the First Amendment. Okay, wait, hold on now. If this was a right-wing political protest, so if somebody was protesting for some sort of right-wing ideology, if somebody was saying, I'm going to protest for the cops as opposed to trying to reform the cops, they would say, well, what do you, how dare you consider firing that person? What's wrong with you? You're a bad person. If somebody was protesting to make America great again, protesting for Donald Trump, oh, that's fucking fantastic. What do you mean? Oh my God, are you seriously? You're considering firing him? How dare you? Basic freedom. Let the person speak their mind, goddammit. But when it's a kind of protest they don't agree with, fire, I'd fire him. Oh, you'd fire him. So it's almost like you're triggered and you need your own little safe space. And it's almost like you're the right-wing PC police and right-wing social justice warriors. Look, I don't want anybody fired for this bullshit. Okay? So, I defended the Duck Dynasty guy when he made those horrific comments he made in that magazine article where he said terrible things about black people and he came out as this uber conservative. I said, look, all that shit is wrong and stupid and dumb, but I'm not going to fire him. I'm not going to fire him because then what happens? What are we going to play this game every time something like this happens? So Martin Bashir says the thing where he implies that somebody should shit in Sarah Palin's mouth. It's funny every time I say it. And what happened? He got fired over that. Because the right wing was like, fire. How about we don't fire anybody? How about if you say something that's controversial, if you say something even that's pathetic, you shouldn't lose your job over that shit, whether it's a right-wing thing or a left-wing thing. So if it was a right-wing protest happening in the NFL, I don't want those people fired. And they might start doing some of them now. I don't want them fired. And if it's a left-wing thing, I don't want Colin Kaepernick fired. Okay? So I'm actually consistent on this. These idiots are not. If it's a left-wing protest, fire them. Don't care, bad people, they love ISIS. But if it's a right-wing protest, watch how quickly they change their minds, and that's why they're stupid people, and that's why they are right-wing PC police and right-wing social justice warriors.